Hello there, welcome back to another Consultant Proficiency Resources, more leadership coaching tidbit, where we are breaking through traditional leadership style for optimum success. I'm Cheryl, managing partner and founder for CPR, and here at CPR, we resuscitate one business, one leader at a time. CPR is the business ministry whereby we integrate biblical plus business principles for optimum success. So if you're new to this platform, a very hearty CPR LC welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And we pray that you continue along with us on this transformational journey by simply hitting that subscribe button. Come on now, hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so you'll be advised of all future uploads. And if you're continuing along with us, I know you're a subscriber, and that is great. Thank you so much. You have started with us from inception. You've made a decision in 2023, and that's what leaders do. You're decisive about your decision. You made a decision to invest in you and your team. Human capital is what's going to take you to the next level as an entrepreneur, as a small business leader. So as you elevate, you're bringing your team along for the ride. And you could simply do so by investing in these free resources. You must invest time. The free resources available at CPR blog as well as CPR Moral Leadership Coaching Tidbit right here, doing the work. It's about you doing the work day in and then day out. You have to do the work. On this platform, we say, James 2:26, faith without works is dead. You must do the work. And in doing the work, you begin to compound your interest, compound what you're doing. In this case, if it's something positive, where you're replacing corrupt fruits with good fruit, you're compounding the value of your fruits. But you must do it day in and day out. According to James Clear, we know he quantified it. If you do 1% daily for a whole year, you could have compound interest of as much as 37% net improvement. And that always blows my mind. But it takes work. Your work, you must do it, no shortcuts. So having said that, welcome to episode number 13 as we wrap up the series, Women's History Month. In the month of February, we paid tribute to leaders who've paved the way. We considered some quotes and kind of brought it back to how it impacts us on our faith walk as we continue to do the Lord's work. And in the month of March was no exception. We continue to salute women, being that it was Women's History Month. We considered biblical females as well as contemporary females. We considered Queen Esther as well as Queen Sheba. Both sought wisdom, both exercised wisdom, both received wisdom from individuals that they held in high regard. So Proverbs 2:2 says they inclined their ear to wisdom. And as leaders, female or male, but now that it's Women's History Month, we need to incline our ear to wisdom. And we also featured phenomenal women such as Maya Angelou, as well as Lena Horne. Both really talk about casting your burden and really having the moral fortitude to do what you're called to do. And Maya Angelou also considered looking at a man and woman in the mirror. Again, Women's History Month, we're considering looking at a woman in the mirror. If you cannot change something, right, you change your perspective, you change you. Change how you view things, change what you perceive to be. So those were our two tributes in the month of March, and we're going to conclude it with two additional phenomenal females and actually entrepreneurs. We're going to consider in the book of Acts, we were briefly introduced to Lydia. Did you know that Lydia was in the Bible? Yes, Lydia was a Gentile, but she was also a businesswoman. And Lydia, she was a merchant, getting the job done, doing the work, very diligent, very dexterous in the work that she did. But guess what? When Lydia heard the message of the Apostle Paul, she inclined her ear to wisdom. As a leader, you must pursue truth and wisdom. And Lydia was no different, so much so she invited Paul and his team to her house. So what? She can hear more, so she can gather more A businesswoman knows when to compile and garner information that she needs. And she did it out of what? Her own home, her dwelling place. What better place to receive information, to welcome information when you hear the truth. So it's important to incline your ear to wisdom. And that information, again, can be taken from the book of Acts, more specifically verses 6 to 15, and then verses 40. That's Lydia, a business leader seeking the truth. So I ask you, as a business leader, how are you seeking the truth? Now, the next person we want to consider is Sarah Breedlove. Do you know who that is? Born Sarah Breedlove in December 23rd, 1867. We're talking but no other than the first American, not African American, the first American entrepreneur documented in the Guinness World History. That is Madam C.J. Walker herself. Yes, Madam C.J. Walker. We all know her as an entrepreneur, especially in the brown and black communities. But she was the first entrepreneur, female entrepreneur, recorded in American history by the Guinness records. Having said that, you should know that Sarah Breedlove was the first child in a family born into freedom. She wasn't born a slave. She was born into freedom after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. But she came with challenges as a child, aside from all the racism. And even though the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, mentally, emotionally, there was still trauma, and there were still individuals who were stuck in their own mindset in terms of superiority. So we know in that era that Sarah Breedlove, otherwise known as Madam C.J. Walker, grew up in, had challenges in and of itself. But in addition to that, Sarah Breedlove was fostered. Unfortunately, she became an orphan at a very early age, at the age of 10. She lost both her parents. She was then brought into the home of a relative, I believe her brother-in-law, who took care of her. But that came with some challenges as well, and she was indeed abused to the fact that she started working as a child, as a domestic servant. And she had only about 3 months of formal education. 3 months, right? So it's not all about formal education for everyone. You can still make it work regardless of your education level. It's about pursuing your purpose and, of course, your passion. At the age of 14, Sarah married Moses McWilliams, and she did that to escape the abuse of her brother-in-law. It's recorded that she had 3 marriages, so again, additional challenges at a very young age. In 1906, Sarah married Charles Joseph Walker, and he was a newspaper advertising salesman in Missouri, and hence she changed her name to Madam C.J. Walker. But she was shrewd in um, her business ventures. She indeed was diligent and dexterous. She didn't allow adversity to be at her forefront. She moved skillfully. She had a purpose. She knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to uplift and have a certain level of pride in who we are, as what we would define then as African Americans or former slaves, right? So she took great pride in terms of how we look, and she decided to begin the work of improving that. In her mind, it was all about the here, but we know overall it boosted many of our confidence, since we know that in the black community, we were told differently from our woolly hair was not to love and embrace our woolly hair. So we brought into it as well. We bought into it, and as a result, she was there to change that, to make our community of women feel beautiful as we were born to be. And that is Madam C.J. Walker. And her quote, one of her quotes is, "Don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. Get up and make them." And that's pretty simple. Get up and make them. Regardless of your adversity, regardless of your challenges, regardless whether you have money to start your business, whether you have an office space or not, whether you have a platform to do it or not, whether you have one person listening or not. You have a call, you have a purpose. Begin the process. Get up and do it. No excuses. Madam C.J. Walker, Sarah Breedlove, based on her many challenges and adversities in her life, she became the first American entrepreneur, female entrepreneur. And if she can do it, we can do it too, because we know we can do all things through Christ. The other quote that she stated, and I love, so I'm going to read it again verbatimly. There is no royal flower strewn path to success. And if there is, I have not found it. For whatever success I have attained has been the result of much hard work and many sleepless nights. So here we go. It's about doing the work. It's about diligence. It's about having a strong work ethic. And it's about applying yourself. She said, there's no royal flower strewn path to success, meaning it's not easy. But if you have your purpose and passion, you certainly can do so as much as she did. Sarah Breedlove, that is Madam C.J. Walker. So today we want to close out Women's History Month. In yesterday's episode, episode number 12, we spoke briefly about the challenges of women entrepreneurs on the back end. As a business owner, there are challenges, and most of it linked to financial and taxes. But as a woman, we also know whether you are caretakers for parents or your own home, there's responsibility in addition to being an entrepreneur and a business person. So I would say, as we continue to consider those challenges, Business News Daily highlighted a few of those challenges. I'm going to spotlight some of those challenges that we face as women. And for the solutions, I would recommend you go to CPR blog, which I then broke down some of the solutions that were posted by some experts and based on my own experience as well. So here we go. First, let's look at some statistics. As of 2017, more than 11 million United States businesses were owned by women, employing nearly 9 million people and generating $1.7 trillion in sales. And this is according to the National Association of Women Business Owners. And according to Business News Daily, one woman stated, women-owned businesses are still in the minority, regardless of that statistics. Women-owned businesses are still in the minority, and the hurdles faced by women who have embraced entrepreneurship are vast and often very different from those experienced by their male counterparts. And for us in the Black and Brown community, we also know that pool has also dwindled much further, more than our white female counterparts. I encourage you, as we look into challenges as women, consider Numbers 13:30. It says, for God had not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And if you're moving by faith, we should also know, according to Luke 1, verse 37, for truly nothing is impossible with God. So 7 challenges noted by Business Newsweek women entrepreneurs face. And again, I'm just going to highlight a couple of those points. The goal for the tidbit here, as always, to keep it under 30 minutes. But for the solutions, please go to today's blog on www.cprlcservices.com. First one is defying social expectations. And a case in point is, again, going into a meeting, going into a room, going into a conference. And I know as a woman of color, it becomes more challenging. Being a female and then being a minority in this society right here in Babylon, right? It is indeed challenging. You go in, you might be the only female and definitely might be the only minority there. Or if there's another person there in the room, they're already in another corner trying to seem invisible. I don't know if you have had that experience. That has been my experience. We know when we go to these conferences, we should be coming together. There's nothing wrong with coming together, having a seat, introducing ourselves. Yes, we could expand our network, but just break that that comfort. Go out, reach out to that other person that looks and sounds like you. Introduce yourself, befriend that person, sit even if you have to, and then make a concerted effort to then go out and speak to others, because you're in a business. This is the world that we live in. and it's important that you network and get the word out. Accessing funds still remains a problem. Raising capital is more difficult for women owners. And according to Babson College report, they found that less than 3% of companies with venture capital funding had female CEOs. So that continues to be an issue. Then we have struggling to be taken seriously. I know this very well, coming out from an executive healthcare field. Many times, again, being the only female around the room, male, Caucasian, Asian clinicians, and as a result of that, at that's actually a certain level of time, you spending 20, 25 years in that role, and as you progress, you become a little bit more comfortable, right? Because they kind of just got to know you. This is Cheryl, but it took a while. And after, once they get to know your aptitude and your attitude, positive attitude, that is, that allows you to soar to your altitude. Again, but just remember, in corporate is about playing the game, doing the work, navigating. And if you're on your faith walk, it becomes more challenging. How do you successfully navigate, right? And there are times when you have to say no to bad behavior, which has been my experience. So in this case, struggling to be taken seriously, for me, I had a no nonsense attitude that I displayed in corporate and I carry today. Come correct or don't come at all, as we say in the street, right? But most CEOs find themselves in a male dominated industry all the time. And again, as minority women, Black and brown women, understanding that what seemed to be a limitation is that we end up being the only Black or brown person in the room. Owning your accomplishments. Don't allow anyone to downplay your innate skills that you bring to the table, your education, your career achievements. None of it. If you've earned it, if you've been blessed with it, and you've done the work to earn it, don't allow anyone to downplay that. That's your skill, it's your gift. What you are required to do is to thank the Most High for the gift. And we know when we're given talents and gifts according to the scripture, if you don't do anything with it, you lose it, or you're not going to get any more. So for those of you who seem stuck, okay, why I feel stuck, could it be that you're not using the talents that you were given? Just a question. As a leader, you self-reflect for that answer. Another one is building a network of support. A robust support network is definitely very essential for entrepreneurship success. So it's no surprise that according to the statistics, 40% of female founders report that a lack of available advisors and mentors limit their professional growth. Then you have, of course, balancing business and family life. As you get home, there's still homework if you have younger ones. Even if you have young adults, there's a mother in you 24/7. For those of us like myself who took care of elderly parents, there was that responsibility. And now that for me, they're no longer there, yeah, there is time, but there's just still something that's missing. And part of that is still being responsible for your home environment, your state. There's always something that needs to be done. As females, we know how we do it. Still maintaining the home, right? And if you're in your faith walk and you're doing things within your fellowship, there's also a level of responsibility as women we are called to do. So there's always work to be done. And then you have the feeling of coping with fear of failure. Failure is a real possibility in business, right? So there are two things you have to keep in mind. I would say when deciding to get into business, you have to face reality and say, it could fail. But you also have to go into business thinking, what if it doesn't fail? And what if I'm successful? If you're following your purpose and passion and you've done the work, we say, go for it. We want to commit acts of commission as opposed to acts of omission. You do not omit it because of fear. Don't allow fear to be the conductor on your trip, on your journey. Don't do it. Remove fear with faith. You have to replace fear with faith. Failure should not be viewed as a negative. It should be viewed maybe as a challenge. And that should help kind of keep you on your toes, but certainly not as a negative. So stay the course. So in conclusion, as we conclude the 7 challenges that women face in business in the month of April, CPR LC Moral Leadership Coaching Tidbit will resume its building blocks. That gave you enough time for those of you who started with us in December to start with episode 1 and do the work day in and day out. You should begin to see some progress if you were diligent. If you were lax in doing the work, you still have time. Go back and then really put an effort into it. Again, as a minimum of 1% can make a difference. And then consider again those who we pay tribute to in the month of February, and then the females, the women entrepreneurs we pay tribute to, considering the main thing that was underscored is wisdom, inclining your ear to wisdom and seeking wisdom, partnering with wise individuals so that you can get your job done. So we're going to close out with a couple of scriptures before we make a great announcement. So we'll end with 2 Corinthians 1 verse 3 to 14. It says, no matter what you're dealing with, he will always be there to guide and comfort you. And his understanding, entrepreneurship is terrifying. Yes, it is. So no one tells you, dear, 100 no's. But eventually there's a yes. And I can attest to that wholeheartedly. And eventually many people see you, they see when you are going through and navigating through your chapter of yeses. But there were 100,000 no's prior to that. But still, you rise because you walk by faith and not by sight, understanding your calling and of course your purpose. And then we want to conclude with a couple of other precepts. We're looking at 1 John 4:18. It says that God's perfect love has the power to cast out fear. So again, we're leading by faith, not fear. And 1 Peter 5:7, when we choose faith over fear, we cast our anxiety on the one who cares about us most. And not only the one that cares about us most, remember, the one that gave us the purpose to begin with, because we're working our purpose. And in terms of concluding our March series, Women History Month, as we salute women who have paved the way, and we looked at both biblical and contemporary women leaders. And now, this is our announcement. CPR is proud to join the Running Radio Online family. And starting March 28th, CPR can be heard for a full hour with its new radio online program, Jumpstart with CPR, starting 10:15 a.m. Central. That's 11:15 a.m. Eastern. And it will be repeated again at 4:15 p.m. Central. That's 5:15 p.m. Eastern. Only on One Radio. We thank the One Members team for this wonderful opportunity as we continue to integrate biblical plus business principles for optimum success as we continue our faithful on this wonderful journey called life. We want to do it correct without losing our soul. And again, much thanks for the One New Member team. And lastly, I would say all praises to the Most High. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for sticking with CPR. We hope that you'll join us on the other end again on One Radio. Simply download on your phone app. It works well with your Apple, and you could also download it. It's an online radio program on your desktop, on your PC, and or your Mac. But again, Jumpstart with CPR starting today, actually, March 28th, and we'll be in 2 airtime slots, AM and PM. Continue to do the work using your pen and paper, considering the principles, business principles, as well as biblical principles that we'll continue to present to you in that radio format. Again, thank you so much for listening and have a great day.